Hello and welcome to the Project Mbappe podcast. In each episode, we look to discover if there's a secret formula to developing a footballer. On today's episode, we have Nigel James, the father of two Chelsea stars, Reece James and Lauren James. Welcome to the show, Nigel.
Welcome, Nigel.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having us.
It's incredible that two of your children are playing at the very highest level. You must be extremely proud. When did you realise that they were going to have such amazing careers?
It's a funny one. It's different stages. You know, at the very young age of 6, 7,
Yeah.
you could see they had a sort of determination to love the ball and to put a lot of hours into the ball, into the garden. And, you know, there was like 3 of them, so they're all doing football. So Joshua, my oldest one, when he was like obviously 8, Rhys 6, and Lauren 4.
Yeah.
It was a great age that they all could sort of like mix together and play.
Yeah.
So they always had the 3 of them, as well as whether it was a neighbour or a friend from school. So it was like a gang.
Okay.
And if there wasn't like the friend from school over, there was 3 of them playing. So constant every day.
Yeah.
And you don't realise it, but the level on the contact time they're having, that sort of helps later on.
Yeah.
As they sort of develop and get a little bit older and stuff like that. And then you start picking bits up and goes from there.
Were you a footballer, or what sort of level did you play?
I played up to sort of like non-league level.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just had a spell at Woking, Aldershot. And you know, it was different to how it is now. Obviously, a lot of those clubs are running themselves like a professional club.
Yeah.
And if not, it's professional, it's semi-professional. Back in the day before,
Yeah.
you know, you wouldn't really say semi-professional, you know, the way how everyone was treated the same, and sometimes some managers didn't know how to talk to young kids. So I sort of fell out of love with it. I had a motorbike accident and then came back, and by the time in that rehab time, coming back, you sort of fell out of love with it. And it wasn't till an old friend of mine who I played with at Woking, Gwyn Berry,
Right.
he used to run Curva Coaching
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
under for Woking Football Club, and he was short of a couple of coaches, and he said to me, do you come and do a bit of coaching? And I was like coaching? And I went over, helped him, and for a couple of days, and I enjoyed it.
And what age were you when this happened?
I must have been probably about 20.
Okay.
I was about 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 20 because we just had my first son.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, and there was mixed ability kids there, and obviously I was new to coaching, so I didn't have the best kids. I had the kids who sort of like wanted to try, and it was nice to sort of work with those kids, and you know, they weren't expecting much from me and I wasn't expecting much from them. And it just, I went home, liked it. He called me back and said, what do you think? And I said, great. So I went back again, and he sort of took me under his wing for a bit, and developed me as a coach. And we picked up a lot from the Curva Coaching. There was another sort of coaching out there, was Brazilian soccer.
Yeah.
And we took a little bit from that, and then when my children, Josh started year one, it was reception at New School in Richmond. The head teacher, it was a brand new school, and I walked in there with like my football kit on, and she said, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm started coaching." And she said, "Oh, do you fancy doing the after school club here?" And it just worked out that I had that school. That school, there was 3 new schools within the Sheen Richmond. And the head teacher spoke with all 3 schools. Then I always end up running those 3 schools. That went into 2 more. So before you know it, I had 5 schools just like that in there doing the after school club. And then the coaching, everything just grew from there. Half terms, you had all those kids coming in, and then, you developed the better ones in with there. They joined up with your kids, and that's...
So you, through your coaching company that you are building, and you're spending a lot of time coaching children, would you say that you started to apply what you were learning with those players and those children with your own children?
Yeah. So we would, half terms, we would take my own kids, we'll go off and play little tournaments. There'd be little tournaments out there, summer tournaments, and we'll do well in one game. A parent from the other team that see us, and they come over and say, "Oh, like, what's your team like?" And it wasn't really a team; it was just like, Richmond All Stars.
Okay.
And that's what I first called myself. And each time we went and played a game, someone would want to join us, and then before you know it, there was a talented group of boys that you had.
So is this for Reece's group?
This was for Josh's group.
Right, okay. So with Rhys, like, what was his journey? Like, what first team did he join?
So with Rhys, what happened is Joshua had in his group, you had a few boys in there that were at Crystal Palace. So this is like 8 years of age, 7, 8.
Okay.
So they play for their grassroots clubs.
Yeah.
And they were doing development centres.
Yeah.
Joshua played for KPR in Kew.
Yeah.
And he was doing that. At the time, I was a scout for Fulham.
Right.
Just started. And where Joshua used to go to the development centre, he was offered as an under-9 player. So as an under-9 player, he was training Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, play Sunday. Rhys was 7 years of age. So Rhys would be in the background having a kick around, and one of the it's like assistant academy manager, slope development centre manager, chap called Jeff Noonan. Right. He sort of saw Rhys kicking the ball around, and he said, "Does he want to join in with the group?" So as a 7-year-old, Rhys trained with me as normal on a Monday.
Yeah.
The kids did. Tuesday, he trained for 2 hours in the Fulham session.
Yeah.
With these older...
With an under-9s.
Brother, yeah.
So just think, an under-9s and then a 7-year-old.
Yeah. Wow.
Never mind playing 1 year up, but 2 years up at an academy level. So Rhys done that Tuesday, Thursday, right? Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, for a whole year.
When did he get into Chelsea?
So he was doing Chelsea because he joined Chelsea at 6.
Right, yeah.
So he played a game for KPR in a tournament, in the West Surrey Youth little tournament at Cobham.
Yeah.
They picked him out as he won the best young player. They done best outfield player and best goalkeeper. So he won the best outfield player, considering he was playing like a year up in that, because it was under 7s tournament.
He was still under 6.
Still 6. So he was going in at that young age. They were going in on a Friday evening. Chelsea's developments on a Friday evening. By the time they got to, I think, under 8s, then it was like they used to do, I think it was either a Tuesday or Wednesday. They used to have them in on a Wednesday, and they had the Friday, and then the Saturday was like every other week they'd have games, and then it would start building up.
So just for parents to have the idea of what his schedule was like at that age. So in the week he was doing the Monday with you.
Monday with me.
Yeah.
Tuesday, Fulham. Wednesday, it would either be with me, and as they grew, there was a Chelsea session. Thursday, Fulham. Friday, back with me.
Chelsea, with you. Yeah.
Back with, because I'd have a session, but then I would always run a session on a Friday. But then as Rhys got to around the 8 sort of mark, under 8s, he used to go on a Friday to Chelsea.
Didn't he do some stuff with Epsom Eagles as well?
Yeah, yep. After KPR.
Yeah.
He done KPR as an under 7.
Yeah.
A little bit of under 8s. And then we joined Epsom Eagles with Darren Chapman.
Yeah.
For the under 8s. And in that team, what we had there, you had Rhys, Conor Gallagher.
Really?
Boy called Ben Dempsey, who's at Charlton. Alfie Doughty, who's just signed for Stoke.
Yeah.
Ian Moncarlo, who's at Leeds.
Oh, wow.
Is at Leeds,
One under
Colombian
8 team.
under 8s team. And you had a boy called Finlay Saville, who actually signed for Chelsea. He did.
Yeah.
So basically, out of the squad that we had as under 8s, there was at least about 7 or 8 of us that all got signed by clubs. And then you had Finlay Monroe, boy called Finlay Monroe.
Yeah.
Also signed, who played with us and signed for Chelsea. So the team was a very good team. So that core of boys went into Chelsea, and as like, under 8s, under 9s, and just grew.
Yeah.
So that was the South. It was the most of the South boys, and it was like South and North London.
Yeah.
Sort of thing that made the Chelsea under 9s team.
Yeah.
That year.
No, I remember it because I think that was where I was first starting to go to Chelsea myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got this picture in my head of Rhys at Cobham dominating. I was describing to Marcelo what he was like at under 8s, and he was the best player at that age, wasn't he? I think we can say that.
Yeah, he was a very good player, what he had, but one of the things sort of like what we liked about the Chelsea, him going in there, he was surrounded with all the boys that was in there, all very good. And that was important, that it wasn't so much who he played against, it was what he trained with. Because you're having more contact time with the best players training than having the odd game every week against not so good. And, not everyone's going to make it at Chelsea, but the level of the players coming in, that will help your development, because every session, it's like bang, bang, bang.
And that's really invaluable advice, because the parents that are now on the rates, they're getting offers from different clubs, and some they're asking us, how do we make the decision, what helps us. So that is
it was clubs used to come to me, and we got to look at Rhys and many 8-year-old, 7-8-year-old parents who's got a talented boy, that they're going to have lots of offers by lots of clubs.
Yeah.
And what people used to say to me, you know, people probably still say it now, that you know, why are you going to Chelsea? Chelsea don't produce players, and they produce players but don't give them opportunities. And you know, yeah, but you got to look and sit and think to yourself, maybe the boys that were there wasn't at the level. So, you know, clubs used to come to me and say, come to our club, we produce players, blah, blah. And you look and you sit and think to yourself, listen, he's 8 years of age. Yeah. Like, if we're having this discussion when he's 20, it's different. But 8 years of age and you want to tell me, don't go to Chelsea, go to QPR, go to Crystal Palace, go to Reading, that you're going to produce players. How do we know?
Yeah.
You know, your success rate isn't sort of like every kid comes through your academy, you produce and they're a player.
Yeah.
You know, it's back to pot luck. So it was one of those things. Rhys, even though I was a Southampton fan, went to Southampton. I wanted him to go to Southampton.
Did you?
Yeah. And, you know, there's a part of it you got to look and sit and think on the family lifestyle, on work, and can you get to Southampton? Do you want to rush him from school into the car and drive, sort of thing, 2 hours away, and get there? And then you start adding pressure on the sacrifices you're making, and now you get there, and now you want to become the coach, that he's got to perform, and if he doesn't perform, then that journey coming home becomes a nightmare. And you have all of that sort of stuff, and you know, when the Chelsea thing was there, it was really hard to look at him and say, I want to push you to Southampton. And Arsenal, Roy Massey, a chap called Roy Massey, who was Liam Brady's assistant at Arsenal. Those two produced, you know, it basically they'd done a terrific job at producing players at Arsenal.
Yeah.
And I sat down with them, and the only thing what stopped me from also going there was sitting on the A406. That journey didn't sort of appeal to me. So Chelsea sort of won the race just because of location, where the boy wanted to be, and
Okay. So he actually wanted to be at Chelsea.
yeah, he wanted to be there, you know, and the standard was really high, and you just, that's what you've got to look at. You can't look at anything else. Is he going to make it? You know, so you just have to just go with and take step at a time.
Yeah.
And go from there, because you know we discovered lots of highs and lots of lows.
Well, that's what I wanted to go into, because you've talked about what Rhys was like, and I also want to focus on Lauren as well, but we'll come to Lauren. But with Rhys, so he's had a successful journey so far, coming into Chelsea's very strong under-8s group, looking to sign as an under-9, and you've had other options. So that's all going really well. What was the journey then like up the age groups? So did it continue to go well right the way through to the first team?
No, under-9s, played as a striker, scored a bucket full of goals.
Right.
You know,
Did they not rotate positions at under-9s?
they did a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a little bit. You know, Rhys played at the back, because the first coach he had was Bob Osborne.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you know, Bob was like absolutely fantastic with the kids, and just what he done. He was just always around, someone that you could sort of talk to as a friend. He was approachable for everybody.
Yeah.
So he was a massive asset what Chelsea had over the years. Who's someone who's a coach who has seen it, because
He was really significant in the journey of John Terry.
yeah, and it's a coach with experience.
Yeah.
it's not a coach that's a coach. Do you know? It's someone who has gone through it and seen it. And so going back, Rhys played at the back, he played on the wing, played in the middle. But when it was like a game, it was like showcase game.
Yeah.
So Chelsea, Arsenal, Chelsea, West Ham, sort of thing. Rhys went up front,
Right.
him and Ryan, and they would score goals, and it was fun.
Cool.
We used to love it. I remember one Sunday we went over to Arsenal, and Arsenal sort of like felt they had a good group. Reece Nelson, Emil Rose Smith was playing,
Okay.
and a few others, and went over at Hayland, and we sort of like absolutely destroyed them. And I remember sitting in the canteen at the top, and Jim Fraser was leaving, poked his head in and just sort of like give us the thumbs up, like to say like brilliant. And we sat down. That was, I think, one of our first games as under nines, and we all sort of like looked at all the parents and just felt like, we got a special group here. And it was.
And it's a turning point, because I remember that Arsenal were very dominant at youth level for a long time, and where Chelsea were trying to rebuild and change what had happened in the past and build a new culture, and Neil Bath had a 10-year plan, 15-year plan, and I think Rhys must have been involved in like that early part of that.
Yeah, definitely was involved in that. And so that was under nines. So we had a nice run, under nines, under 10s, under 11s, under 12s, and it was the start of probably under 13s.
Yeah.
Where that's what you call
Bump in the road?
More like a hole in the road. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, more like a hole in the road. And you fall into that hole.
Right.
Yeah. And you could fall into that hole, and it's one of those things like when people talk about giving someone constructive criticisms, and when you look at it, you could tell a child, you need to do this, you need to do that, work on this, work on that. And some kids get it, and some kids you keep repeating yourself. And when you're out there and you're playing, that child has to be able to think on the spot and deal with it himself. And Rhys went for a really, really tough period at that age. So when you're talking, Jess left Isleworth and Science School, that Chelsea took them on full time. So they, in the first year, they had to live in a hotel. They schooled at Cobham. Came home at the weekend. Very tough. Not playing much. Rhys was, at this time, he dropped into centre midfield. And that whole build-up of that creeps in from secondary school. So primary school, as parents, you wake up, you make breakfast for the child, you take them to school as primary school, and you're in control over what they eat and breakfast and stuff. But when the secondary school goes in and restarts at year 7 at Isleworth and Sion, what you've now got, it changes very quickly. So they're sometimes eating breakfast, or they're running late, and they'll pick something up, and because they've got that independence on going on their own, you don't know what they're eating. So what tends to be near the schools is lunchtime, these chicken shops, and it's cheap, quick, you know,
Yeah.
and kids eat it because their friends pick it up and stuff. And as you start picking up the bad habits, eating the wrong food and stuff like that, that creeps up on you. And then you've gone from Rhys being super sharp, super quick, into start becoming sluggish.
Oh.
That sluggish becoming to centre midfield into one speed. So technically sound, okay, because he's got that. But having the speed and that agility, that starts dropping. And then Chelsea's Chelsea, always recruiting, regardless.
Yeah.
Everyone's always recruiting.
Yeah.
But their machine is super recruiting. Every one scout everyone else has got, Chelsea would have 3 or 4 scouts. And they have to do that to make sure they get the best players. They find the best players.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge for the ones in there to keep going.
Yeah.
So we had a boy that arrived called Domingos. When he arrived, I remember it was away at Charlton.
Yeah.
And
What age group is this, by the way?
this was, must have been about under 13s, under 14s.
Yeah.
Yeah, under 13s. He turned up, and Ian, Ryan Brewster's dad, were very close. And we've seen trialists over the years come in, and we look at trialists and go, nah, sort of thing. This trialist come in, he ain't a trialist. Where's this kid come from? This kid ain't come from the parks. And he come in centre midfield, he ripped the game up, he scored probably he done everything. He done defending, he done tackling, he picked the ball up, he beat 4 players, he put the ball in the back of the net, yeah. Everything you could ask for, he can do.
In Reece's position.
In Reece's position. So it's sort of like highlighted, like, whoa, this is the benchmark. So with that going on, things were very, very difficult for Rhys. And things started to change a little bit. Well, when he got to 15.
Yeah.
Got to 15. So we're under 15s, and bear in mind, your boy's away from home. Things are not going well. It's hurting me as his father, seeing things. It's obviously hurting him.
Yeah.
But because he's in day to day, his character and the type of person he is has made the people in the club see he's going through a tough time, but also see he's a nice boy. Because that bit there, you could change, and now someone feels, you're upsetting this camp in here. You know, most of those coaches involved in football, you spend more time at the training ground than you spend with your own family. So those boys become your family. So regardless things is going well for you or not going well for you, you still have to show a nice calmness that you're prepared to work hard and not throw your toys at them, because the coaches don't want that. Managers don't want to see that.
Yeah.
They know you're going through a tough time, and you've got to sort of like dig in with a smile on your face, because the last thing they want is to be going in there and feel there's a challenge. You know, they want to go in there and try to be as happy as they can and have good energy. And Rhys showed that great energy in those bad times. And, you know, that's something that gave him time. So that gave him time. And then 15 and a half, we had a little review, and you had his coach, John Harley, and Frank O'Brien, and I said they were positive on Reece's ability, but there was a concern about fitness, on that one speed, and so on. You know, I used to get Rhys out on a Sunday on his day off, his only day off after coming back on the Saturday, and I used to take him to a lady called Lorna Booth, athletics coach, and we used to go over to Sutton, the arena, and run. And it was a part of that running, that extra work we had no choice. I felt I needed to do something. So he used to do all those extras in with that.
Were the club advising you to do work on the outside as well?
It's a tricky one because they want you to do extra.
Yeah.
But you could do too much.
Yeah.
And then you don't have the energy for them.
Yeah.
Or you could go do so much and get injured. Because in football, everyone thinks they're the expert. Everyone thinks they're a coach. You know, everyone thinks this is a good player. And they don't know. They're just guessing, gambling, and then in the review, I sort of said to the coaches, I said, what about if they played him right back?
What age was this?
This was 15 and a half.
Right.
What made you have that decision, make that decision, or make that suggestion?
Well, what it was, I always sort of look at the team as it's, and what tends to happen is you've sort of like got from 14, under 14s moving into 15s, you'd have the best boys that was seen as the best boys getting nominated to go to England trials and being involved with England, and then getting Nike contracts, Adidas contracts, boot sponsors. Yep. So because they're having the Nike's, the commercial stuff, they're having the England stuff, and they're ahead playing in the 14s, they sort of walk away from that thinking they've made it, sort of thing. So that ego with them carries on. Rhys never had any of that. It was something that you had to keep making him believe in his ability, keep supporting him, keep just talking about his ball comfort. You're amazing, son. The way you trapped that ball today. Yep. The way you pass the ball is beautiful. I love it, sort of thing. Yeah, just the way you touch it. Just keep going on about what he was great at, all that sort of stuff. And going back to your question about why I looked at asking to play right back, most of the players who played a right back were players who didn't really nail it down as centre backs. So the boy who played right back was always a centre back, just play right back, sort of thing. But because it was a great team, that player didn't really get exposed much, sort of thing. So the centre back could play right back. And I always looked at it and sit and think, best players in the world, why are the best players in the world? Because they're technicians. Because they're great at the ball. So I was thinking, once Rhys goes and play there, he's going to look so comfortable on the ball more than any of the defenders, right? And Chelsea's a side that have the ball more than the opposition, so he's going to look better on the ball, and the goalkeeper's going to give him the ball. Everyone's going to give him the ball from the back. So all he's just got to do is learn to defend, and that will come. So under 15s finished, start off under 16s, and all the boys in his group that had been offered everything and done stuff never played in the 16s. They played in the 18s. So everybody sort of like got pushed up. So Rhys was left in the 16s to play, and I was happy because how I looked at it, you're playing a new position, and you're probably going to play every week now, and everyone else. So all the scouts and everyone else was looked at. All the best players in that age group weren't playing the 16s. They played the 18s. So all what was left in the 16s was the ones what they don't really fancy, or someone younger playing up, right? But for Rhys, what was great, he had that whole year to learn that position. So he done that very well, and learned and played with freedom, because no one was expecting him to go bang, right? So he finished under 16s, and then around that time, Jody Morris was sort of like floating around the club, 15s, 16s, when Rhys was around that, and Jody was assistant for the 18s, and the summer before pre-season, Jody called me and he said, before Rhys comes into pre-season, I want him to sort of like go to this bloke called Jamie Lawrence, and I had everything arranged for Rhys to go back to this Lorna. I actually paid her and everything, and done everything, and I sat down and I thought to myself, it's nice Jody's offered to go to his mate, right? But like, so I said to Rhys, we got to go Jody, and not to Jody, we go to Jamie Lawrence.
Yeah.
And Rhys was like, I thought we're going Luna. And I said to him, listen, let's just do Jamie, because if we do Jamie, Jody, he asks for you to do it, just do it, right? Because, so Rhys went to Jamie Lawrence, and Jamie Lawrence absolutely,
He's tough.
He's tough.
Yeah,
he
he's
kills
really
you, right?
Yeah.
And I would look, and Jody will like it. So I'd got the picture that Jody's watching. So then Rhys gets through that. Pre-season comes, and Rhys does pre-season. Jody's probably happy with him, because Jody's sitting thinking, like, you've done what I've asked. And where some of the other pre-Maradonas at the time, and this is what happens, because they've sort of had it all good, Jody's come in and Jody's done it. He's played, yeah. He's coming into coaching, right? He's from London, yeah. He ticks all the boxes. He's come from the background that all those boys are from, right? And some of them will pick it up and some won't. But by the time they pick it up, it's too late, because they've already shown their character to him, sort of thing. And he's coming into coaching and he's thinking to himself, I want to make something of myself as a coach.
Yeah.
So for me to do that, I need who's going to fight for me. I can't have no one's going to give me attitude. So I'd say to Rhys, you know what? Jody's going to be old school. I said, when he tells you to run, yeah, you run, right? I said, you make sure that you could be his number one soldier, because it's a war.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, don't worry about the others. The others, they got their contract. Yeah, they're feeling good. They got good, start buying the cars and everything. I goes, don't worry. Your job is to fight for Jody. You fight for Jody, Jody's going to look after you. Right? Because that's all what matters. No matter what everyone says, whoever your manager is, please that person. Just please him. Because you please him, he's going to keep playing you.
Yeah.
And then if he keeps playing you, you're going to get confident, and all the doubters are going to end up liking you, because someone else says you're a good player. And then they start saying you're a good player. That's how this game goes. No one's got their own mind. They just follow people, right? So, so we had that, and the FA Youth Cup started, and Rhys obviously was a first year. Jody was assistant. They won the FA Youth Cup that year. Rhys had a good year.
Was he captain?
No, he was captain the second season.
Right,
So first year, a really good run. And I remember us playing, I think it must have been around the quarterfinals away to Leicester. And in that Chelsea team, everyone, that starting 11, everyone had actually had a pro contract, right? And was involved with like international, England or whatever. The only player who's not had a pro contract or was involved with England was Rhys. He was the only one, right? And I mentioned that to someone, and they mentioned it to someone else, and before you know it, it was in the press. And because it was like, and then not so long after that, Rhys got a call up. He got a call up to go to Qatar with, I think, the England under-18s. And then he got offered his first pro contract. And that was a 2.5 year deal. And one of the first things I said to Rhys after, I said, you could either make this your best ever contract or your only one. Yeah, your only one, your worst one. And I said to him, forget about the 2.5. Let's carry on digging in what we're doing, because what we're doing well. I think if you don't get offered another new deal in a year's time, we're not doing very well. And so 2.5 years to run. Finished first year youth team, won the FA Youth Cup, won a lot of the cups. Second season, he's made captain. So that year, I think they won 4 or 5 trophies, FA Youth Cup. He wins Academy Player of the Year, wins that. Then the club comes to him and says, I'm going to offer you a 4-year deal.
Wow.
I'm going to offer you a 4-year deal. Rip up the 2.5 year one, 4-year deal. You look at it and you sit and think, wow. And then at that present time, obviously I met all the agents you could think of. I met good guys. I wouldn't say bad guys, because none of them are bad. I would just say that a lot of them are chances. So they either don't know football, but they're good salespeople. And I needed not a salesperson, I needed someone that was going to know football, but actually know football more than I do. And the ones who I did know that knows football more than I do, they couldn't do this job. So it was something that me and the family, we looked and thought, I'm going to navigate this and get 1 or 2 people to support me, but they're supporting me. They're not running the show, because I've made the product. I know the product really well. And when we was offered that 4-year deal at Chelsea, I had a little chat with Rhys, and I said to him, what do you want to do? And he said, what do you think? And I said, just go out on loan. And all the agents I met said to me, yeah, go out on loan. And I said, what level? All of them. League 2, League 1, League 1, League 1, League 1, League 1. And they come up with names like, no disrespect to these clubs,
Yeah.
Fleetwood,
Yeah.
Doncaster. And I'm scratching my head and I'm thinking, so my son, I gotta keep addressing it, my son. I said, so my son has gone through all of this, went through the dark side, has come out in a new position, has won FA Youth Cup, first year, England, captained the side of Chelsea, and won 4 or 5 trophies. And I'm just thinking, Fleetwood and Doncaster does not ring for someone that's done that. It really doesn't. You know. So I spoke with the club, and the club said they would rather him have stayed and looked to have trained with the first team, go out and play in the checker trade at the time, go out maybe on loan in January. I knew that's something Rhys didn't want to do. He wanted to get out now. So we sort of like made a few inquiries, spoke to a few agents to see whoever could have found a championship club for us, we would have probably looked to have worked with them.
Yeah.
So I spoke with Reading, QPR, you name it. And they all sort of said, he's a good player, but not quite ready yet. Not quite ready yet. So we looked at it and went the other way, and we looked at, this was really at the end, we looked at the 3 what's just got promoted. So you had Rotherham, Blackburn and Wigan. So even though they were going into the Championship, how I looked at it, this is really League 1 club mentality, because they've just come from League 1, going to Championship. So all 3 is probably seeing Reece's profile is someone definitely they want to have around.
Yeah.
But he was only going to be there as cover. So was going to go to Rotherham. I'd done some research on it and I thought, I'm going to struggle every week. That's not going to be no good. My first choice was Blackburn. Went into Blackburn, met Tony Mowbray at the training ground. He had a big projector up with Rhys on there, and you know, he's more talking about like what type of lad are you, and saying like, you know, what music do you like? You got any tattoos? Yeah. So we're sitting down and Reece is looking at me, like sitting thinking, he's going, yeah, because, you know, we've had lads like you, you know. Yeah, we've had lads like you. Like, when you come, like, out of London, like, they struggle, sort of thing, you know. And they like rap music and tattoos and stuff like that. And you sit,
God.
yeah, and you sit there and you sit and think to yourself. And then he was talking about, you won't play much. You've got a chap who played right back, Ryan Mayambi or something like that. Will play. You won't play much. If we're at home and we're doing well, then you know you might get a chance there, and then that was that. And Rhys looked at me and just said, "Let's go." So we left that. So that was Blackburn, and then we went to Wigan. Walked in at Wigan, day one, at the hotel. Manager came to meet us at the hotel. He was early. He sat down, patient. We come down, I had breakfast with him, went to the training ground, got to the training ground, met the chairman, met director of football, club scout. We met everyone.
Yeah.
And we felt like, wow, this is a proper club. I felt that moment there that this is superb. Bear in mind, the right back at the time had just won the Supporters Player of the Year for the last 2 years in a row. So I'm looking and thinking, we got to go and compete with that. So this all boils back down again. How you deal with football. How you deal with football, regardless, is always going to win. So bear in mind, on paper, this right back is the fans' favourite.
Yeah.
How I'm looking at it, if he's the fans' favourite and he's done so well, someone else would have come and bought him. Why haven't they not come and bought him? And that's because he hasn't got probably the ball comfort to go to the next level. So he's good, but we're not looking at this level. We're talking on producing a player to go high. So I know once Rhys goes into training and they see, and that's what happened when in training, and they told me this, they goes, day one, they're like going, you see that Chelsea lad? Day two, like, no, having a laugh. Yeah, scratching their head. Right, day three goes in, and they're going, this lad ain't here just to be a like bench warmer. He's there to play. And then they had a little in-house game. I think they played Liverpool, and Rhys played centre back and centre midfield. And then he called me that evening and said, like, the gaffer wants me to play centre midfield, like, because he thinks I can. And I said, no, you're not. I said, you're not playing centre midfield. Tell him, yeah, you know, just be polite about it, but just say to him, you're here to play right back. And if not, then we're going to have to, Chelsea will have to call you back. But we're not going to play centre midfield. And I was strong about that because you're going into 18, you're going into senior football.
Yeah.
The last 2 years you've played right back at Chelsea because you wasn't good enough to play centre midfield. Now we want to reverse it straight away before anyone have seen you play centre midfield. I just thought the gamble on that was just too high with having Chelsea itself probably didn't even want you to go out on loan straight away. So if I got it wrong, it's like that dad. His dad always interferes. So I couldn't afford to, I had to get that right, sort of thing. Because that's what people don't want parents to interfere. And we'll come into that in a bit.
Yeah.
And so we worked on that, and what Rhys put to the gaffer and said, listen, like, I need to establish myself as a right back.
Yeah.
After Christmas, if you need me to play, like, somewhere, then we could do it. And how I put to Rhys and how he put to the club is the fact that if he could start off and show what he could do as right back, then the perception of how people would see it is the right back is now playing centre midfield. So when he goes into centre midfield and he gets the ball and he pops it around, they're not looking at him as a centre midfielder, they're looking at him as the right back doing it. Because no other right back in the country, is doing it.
No.
Not just not look at him as a footballer.
Yeah.
A footballer should play anywhere,
Yeah.
right? So that's what happened. So after Christmas, Rhys slipped in. We're at Sheffield United, and he slipped in like halfway through the game into centre midfield. Got it, popped it around, and then I had the crowd like going, the fans like going, you know, decent centre midfield, like. And then the next game, they're like, you know, like I like him in centre midfield. Like, and everyone was saying, no, right back. But to be fair, he's not bad centre midfield. And he's playing and stuff. And then when we went and played Leeds United, we got a man sent off within, it was early on, 10 man down. And then in a period of 20 minutes, Rhys played right back, centre back, right wing back, centre midfield in the game. And at Ellen Road, they were fighting for the title. Yeah, the fans, amazing. First time I've sort of like been at Ellen Road, and the support at Ellen Road, the Leeds fans, was like, still today, I sit and think that's a club.
Yeah,
and the support, and just the whole atmosphere and everything. And for Rhys to play, and I think it was Wigan won that game, was just like, wow. And that was just the turn off in the centre midfield and showing what you could do.
Yeah.
And it just sort of like grew from there.
You touched on earlier some of the conversations you were having with Rhys, and I think it's interesting for parents to try and understand when things were going well and when things weren't going well. What are the sort of conversations you were having coming back from games or training with Rhys?
When it's going well, everybody could get carried away, sort of thing. And you know, going well, it was just like, well done, son. Same thing, he was great on the ball, scored a lovely goal, defended well, good clearance, yeah, really good. When it wasn't going well, and because he wasn't playing that much, it was still, you know, when you get your chance, you just show what you could do, sort of thing. You know, that 5-yard pass, how simple it is, yeah, means a lot. If we do 100 simple little passes and get 100% completion rate in that, that looks good. Yeah, whatever you do, I just sit and say, whether you play here or you play over there, just play, just enjoy, just keep working hard. And even though I was frustrated, I learned very quickly to try keep that frustration away from him.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because if I installed that frustration in him on my thoughts on the coaches,
Yeah.
there was a chance on him not showing them no respect. And then it becomes a disaster, and I've installed that in him, and he's gone and delivered it without realising. So it was important to sort of like keep the negative bits in me about certain people away from him, because he's in there daily. I'm not there.
It sounds like you've contributed and helped navigate his journey so well, and you've made brave decisions at certain moments. You've explained that you're an experienced coach. What advice would you give to other parents who are bringing up their players through the academy journey? Would you encourage them to get as involved?
No.
Right.
No, I wouldn't. If I had to do it again,
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't pick football.
Really?
No.
What?
No. If I had to, you know, if you put all this effort as we've done in football and you put that into their education and time, Rhys would have been the next Prime Minister I think we've got more of a chance of being a prime minister than a footballer at this level.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. Do you know?
Yeah.
It's and what parents have to really, really take into consideration is not to neglect their education, their schoolwork is 100% guarantee. That's the guarantee.
Yeah.
And this football, it's, work hard at it. Everything you do, 100%, train well, 100%. Everything you do, you need to give your very best and then see what happens. But don't start thinking your son's going to be a footballer. Because I actually didn't look at that until Rhys was finished at Wigan and completed a season with Wigan. And when we, they had the presentation, and he picked up a lot of like players, supporters player, community player, goal of the season, about 5 trophies he picked up at Wigan, and it was a really emotional afternoon, seeing all the fans and all the players were there, and their families, and Rhys was the loanee player that picked up all the awards, every single award. So they're proper contracted players. None of them got anything. Rhys got it all. It's unheard of.
Yeah.
Off a loanee winning everything. And it was that moment there I sat down, and Anthony Barry, who's the Chelsea assistant coach, he was at Wigan, and he came over and sat down, and he tapped me and he said, well done, like that. He goes, he's a terrific lad, and he's got a bright future ahead of him. And that moment there, you looked and you thought to yourself, you've got a chance in playing professional football at championship level.
And it was only till that moment that you then said, right, he can now have a career in football.
Not when he was in the academy under 12, a young.
No, because it's kids football.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's we've seen loads of academy games where people talk about that player's good, blah blah blah, and he is good, and he picks up the ball running rings around people, but when you look at the percentage on what makes it, right, was it sort of 1 or 2% or something like that? What about the other 98%? So all of that, were just making numbers up.
But you've had it with 2 children. 2 out of 3 have become top footballers playing at the highest level. So I know you say that you wouldn't necessarily, like, you've almost, like, I wouldn't say guaranteed it, but you found a way to get 2 of your children to play at that top level.
Yeah. I look back many times and sit and think, how did that work?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. And, from the very beginning, one of the things I set out to do was to be a great father for them to know that.
Yeah.
And to set for them to be responsible and to understand that, and determination. Those 2 things, so they developed that and understood what those 2 things mean at a very young age. And then the other part of it, that is the guarantee, is how you deal with football. So Lauren worked extremely hard on mastering the ball. That she always played with people. When she was 13, she was at Arsenal. She played in the under-17 girls and was still considered the best player. So with the downside with that, what Lauren had is, because she always played with girls who was going to be 2-3 years older than her, she was the baby, and when she's 13 and some of those girls are just about doing A-levels, yeah, the mindset from a 13-year-old and someone doing A-levels, what have you got in common? So she was always like, when it's football,
Yeah.
everyone's the same.
Yeah.
But that time away from football, it could be in a dressing room, because people be talking about football, school, blah, 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 something else they're doing. She couldn't really get into the group because the age sort of thing. So she was always like a loner.
Yeah.
You develop being, and it's quite sad on having that, and the only thing you've got going for you is the football. So, and with having that, there was a time that particular group of 17-year-old girls, they changed the whole system where it was no more 17s, it was 16s, and then they had to go to under 23s, and some of those girls left the club. So then Lauren was like now 14, and she had to go and play with under 16s. So where it, even though they're 2 years above her, it was like a step down, because when you were 13 you played with the 17s, and the 17s have gone, and now you're playing with who were 15s now going to 16s. So the level isn't quite there. Then you get into England, and there's girls from all over, and your ability is great, but because you find it hard to integrate with some of the girls, because you've now just been with all the older girls, and now you're with girls near enough your age, the ability's nowhere near it, right? So you're just there. So then people used to sort of like say that she doesn't integrate very well, and they would use that, and they would use fitness, and what she's gone through, it's terrific. It's unreal what she's gone through.
Really?
Yeah, as a player, and and then what we done for her when the opportunity came along to go to Manchester. When you sit and think, you're packing your daughter off at 16 to go and live in Manchester on her own. Like, yeah, that's a challenge, a massive challenge.
Yeah.
And she had to go and do that because her love was for football. And it was Manchester United, it was new. It was in the Championship. It was going to be a level that she could play, she could develop as a player, as a person. And, you know, she was there for 3 years. And, you know, with COVID and everything, with restrictions on visiting and seeing, it was the perfect time to sit and think, okay, let's come home now.
Yeah.
And, you know, Emma Hayes has always been a massive fan of Lauren, and she always sort of like gave her support. And when the opportunity was there to have her, she made sure she got her.
So having you know, all your children play football and be good footballers, and two of them at a really high level, how much becoming a professional footballer, is it down to the environment or is it nature, in your opinion?
I'd say a combination of the both. You've got the environment. When you look at Lauren's had her two brothers at a very good level and having their friends around her, So whether they're in the garden, whether they come into goals. So what she actually used as playtime has been great development, because she's played with, she was like the baby sister of everyone. So the level what she played with, I can't see another girl out there having that calibre of boys playing with, and those boys turning into England nationals.
You couldn't ask for more, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm like, when I'm listening to you, I'm linking so much back to those early days when you described the little gang of footballers together. When you've talked about the hard times, the dark times, they fall back on the love for the game. They fall back on the good values that you taught them, and that has like carried them through. And you talked a lot about comfort on the ball. You've used that term a lot, and I think back again to what the schedule that Rhys was doing at under 8, under 7, getting that much ball time. And so, yeah, advice to parents again, when they're like bringing up their young 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, have you got anything that you could sort of impart and help them with based around that?
Yeah, it's just to enjoy.
Yeah.
You know, work hard. Yep. Enjoy. You know, that everyone has to enjoy what they're doing, winning, losing. No one wants to lose, sort of thing. But it's just play. You can't look at it to sit and think, you know, there's this special prize at the end that you just have to just take the pressure away and just play. You know, don't get too involved. Let the coaches, trust the coaches to do their job. You have to, you know, like my one was very different because that's all I know. I'm from a footballing family.
Yeah.
You know, so everyone around, I've had great support by seeing family members and getting advice from close friends, footballers, and it was something that was in me from a very young age. So unless there's a parents that's got the same sort of like background, then they'll know what's best to do. But if that's not your background, and now you want to sort of like buy into it, then no, you know, I just sit and think to myself, it's you're just going to add too much pressure on your child, and when the disappointment kicks in, then that sometimes it damages the relationship between the parents and the child. You know, you just have to just support, trust the coaches, and let the kids just play, and make sure do not neglect their education. You know, it's something most of them will turn around and say they don't, but they do, because they're thinking of this prize. You know, it
sounded very natural for you that you had the coaching company, you had the kids playing in the garden. It's very organic. You didn't set out to say, I'm going to make my kids into footballers. No. It's playing, you know, the excitement of them playing and them loving the game. You know, when one of the key things is when Rhys, even though he was offered a scholarship and he got to doing GCSEs, never forget it. And we had our meeting with the club. Yeah.
And like one of the coaches said to us, when you came here as an under 9, if we offered you a scholarship then, what would you have done? You would just like snapped her arm off. And he said, like, we're at this stage now, and it's a mixed bag. Even though we've offered you, half the coaches think you're okay, and the other half don't really think you're. So I'm sitting there and thinking, this person who's delivering that to me, right, what you're delivering, you are one that don't believe it. Because if you're the one that believes it, you wouldn't tell me about the 50-50. Right? So bear in mind, with all of that, I've got to look and sit and think to myself, they're telling me you could go, but they want me to make that decision. So if I turn around and said, well, I don't think it's going to work here, so can we go? They'd say, well, you can go. And then I was having Crystal Palace, QPR, you name it, clubs, Brighton, and this is scouts would always was coming to me and saying, like, Norwich, we'll take him, we'll take Rhys, we'll give him a scholarship, we'll look after him, and they played on that bit by telling me what I want to hear. Do you get what I mean? Yep. You've just been told that you're on a 50-50. You know it's not been great. You know, there's not great memories, great happy memories from 13 to 15. You're now coming to 16, and someone's telling you that you're going to be so-so. And then you could have a Norwich guy turning around and saying, we think the world of you. So, what do you think I done? I looked at it and I put it to Rhys.
Yeah.
And you know what Rhys said? I want to stay at Chelsea and fight.
Good lad.
And I'm like sitting thinking, like, are you crazy? Yeah.
But you've instilled that mentality into
it.
Exactly.
Exactly what I was
and I'm thinking, are you crazy? You've just heard the man say you're going to probably struggle and there's a 50-50 and you're going into a scholarship knowing that we're going to struggle.
Yeah.
Right? And you want to stay. And I'm thinking, why don't you come Reading with me? Because I was working for Reading at the time.
Yeah.
Come Reading. Or we go Norwich. And you're looking, you sit and think to yourself, if I had forced it, he would have gone into those clubs. Maybe it starts well. But when you have those dark nights,
he would have come.
What would have probably happened, he wouldn't have had the energy to dig himself out. At Chelsea, he's gone through the good days, the bad days.
Yeah.
And when he goes through a bad spell again, he knows how to dig himself out because he wants to be there.
It was his choice.
It's his choice. Yeah. Just like when you're on the pitch. When you're on the pitch, regardless what your dad or what a coach says, your decision making is about you on that pitch. Yeah.
It sounds like you've got such a great relationship with the children, like they really trust you. And when you talked about the time where you made the brave decision to say to him, no, you're not playing at centre midfield, you're going to play right back, you had that relationship where he listened to you.
Yeah.
And he said, no, Dad, all right, I'll go with what you say.
We had a great scenario where we were just at Wigan, and we had in the contract he had like a callback in January.
Oh right.
And Frank and Jody were Derby's managers, and we was in the car going to Wigan.
Yeah.
Drive up to Wigan, and Jody like messaged Rhys to say like leave Wigan and come, because what you've done at Wigan has been fantastic. Now you need to come to a side that's fighting for promotion and be a part of that. And Rhys looked at me and said, Dad, it'd be amazing. Like, Derby at Wigan, you play in front of 8 to 10,000, if you're lucky. At Derby, you got 25, 30,000. So to him, it really appealed really good.
Yeah.
And another choice, and I said to Rhys, I said to him, in this game, it's dog eat dog, right? And there's a part of, there is loyalty, a small part, and there's a lot, and there's no loyalty. You already got that contract because you could deliver something for that club, you're an asset.
Yeah.
And I said to him, Wigan gave you an opportunity, right? And where Wigan are at this stage, this part, we're fighting relegation. And with the manager that showed a lot of faith in you, this is me explaining like this to Rhys, he put a lot of faith in you to play you and to play you in your preferred position that we asked. I just felt it would be unfair to basically walk away from their project on staying up and go to Derby. I said, because you could go to Derby get promoted, you was just a part of that. Your name at Wigan, and those people, they don't trust you. They will look at it that you've been advised wrong. Right? As a person.
Yeah.
Right? So I said to him, let's not do Derby. We stay at Wigan. Whether Wigan stay up or get relegated, those people would know you could have gone. They'd respect you. They will spread the word on what the type of person you are. Yeah. You'd have that, and the fans of Wigan will never forget you. For the rest of your career, you'd always have a place at Wigan. And I said, trust me, son. I said, you will meet Frank again.
Did you say that?
Yeah. You will meet Frank one day. Frank is learning his job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like him, I suppose, yeah.
And then we stayed at Wigan, stayed up, won everything. Frank got the job at Chelsea, right? And there was no grudges in
Frank
it.
would even respect that as well. He would say, no, that guy's got good values.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I love your approach that it's not just on the football side of things. It's so much about the person, the kids that you're developing, or the people that you're developing. Yeah. When you talked about that dark time between 14 to 15 for Rhys, and you said he just turned up to training with good energy.
Good energy. And that's regardless football, whatever work it is, yeah, you know, you have to have good energy, because everyone goes through, you know, stressful times, family, bills, whatever, everything. And when you're working, at least you could have people around you that keeps you going.
Yeah.
Keeping positive, you know. When Wigan were like, you know, fighting relegation, I remember I used to sit and say to Rhys, what's the dressing room like? And he'd laugh and say, like, it's buzzing, Dad.
Okay.
And I'd like, what do you mean it's buzzing?
Yeah.
I goes, you look down the bottom, you're like losing nearly every game. And he goes, it's crazy. He goes, you'd think we're at top of the table.
Fair enough.
And I'm like, is that what it's like? He said, yeah. And I was like, wow. So, but the whole thing, the build up of the whole thing was nice for Rhys to feel warm and welcome.
Yeah.
And, you know, we touched back right at the beginning, and this is another key area
Yeah.
for parents
Yeah.
on getting an early contract and stuff. So when Rhys got going back, and he got the new 4-year contract after the FA Youth Cup, before he was going out to Wigan, he wanted to change his car.
Okay.
And at the present time, he had a C-Class Mercedes.
Yeah.
And he wanted to change it
Yeah.
to Range Rover or whatever. And I said to him, I don't think that's a good idea. And he was like, but why? Like, this one at Chelsea's got that one's got that. And I said, yeah. But where you're going to Wigan. And the Wigan staff, they're all expecting a Chelsea boy to come in with something nice. I said, so when you've established yourself, then treat yourself. I said, trust me. I goes, that chef at the training ground, your car shouldn't be better than his car. They know you're at Chelsea. They know you're a good player. They know you got a good contract. But
they're probably expecting flash, and then their perception changes. Yeah.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Right? So he comes with the C-Class, and I'd say to him, what cars they got? He goes, all got decent cars, Range Rovers, this one, that one. And I said, yeah. I said, you keep your C-Class. You keep it. You drive nice and easy, low key, nice boy.
Yeah.
Nice boy, top player.
That's class.
Nice boy, top player.
That's so.
Then that nice boy, we love that. We love him. Top quality player. We love him. He's a lovely boy. That combination lets you grow. Everybody that surrounds you, confidence.
Have you made mistakes? Because you're giving, it seems like literally perfect advice.
Yeah.
No matter whatever, all the choices you're coming against, you're giving the perfect answer and advice to the kids. Have you made mistakes yourself?
I've made a few mistakes in the past, but I was probably too scared to make loads of mistakes because my parents was very strict, and I was brought up with my mother and grandmother, and they were very strict West Indian family, and so to sort of bring shame to the door was what would happen to you, right? You sit and think to yourself, like, it's not worth it, so I'm going to be good. So me having, like, families, you know, we're from a massive family. I've got sort of like 8, 9 uncles on one side, aunties. So everybody was like a mum and a dad. All your uncles, if one told you off, they all will tell you off. So it was like that. So there wasn't like you're getting away from something. If you've done something good, everyone's give you a cuddle. If you've done something wrong, then you've got to answer to everybody. And then you weigh up and you sit and think to yourself, it's not worth it, sort of thing. So by me having that, I've different style have introduced how I've been sort of like been brought up to the kids, for them to sort of like, you know, work hard and, you know, believe in themselves and do the right things and to be honest.
Would you say that you were strict with them growing up?
I wouldn't say strict. I just sort of like had to let them know, talk to them as children.
Yeah.
But let them know like right and wrong.
Okay.
Do you know?
And how supportive was mum? You know, watching all of this, watching her.
Their mum.
Yeah, their mum.
Yeah. She was from a sort of sporting family herself. When she was young, she done athletics.
Right.
She was always someone that always wants to win. Down to if you're playing Monopoly or whatever it is. Yep, she had that in her. So yeah, you know, when you're talking support, you know, when you look back when everyone was doing football, you had my oldest Josh. After Fulham, he went to Reading. So what you would have is a Reading training night and a Chelsea training night is Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday morning, match on Sunday. So when Josh is at Reading
Yeah.
and Rhys is at Chelsea, one goes to Reading, one goes to Chelsea on the Tuesday. On the Thursday, we swap over. On a Saturday, we swap over again, depending who's got what to do. And on a Sunday, depending who was closer to home, I went, because around that time I worked as a security guard, a night security guard.
Did you?
So I done the security as well as the coaching, and so the security work sort of like guaranteed money to pay the bills, and the coaching is something I could coach and not rely on the money, because if you rely on the money, it gives you a headache and you can't coach. So I could coach with a smile on my face and passionate about what I do, knowing when I left the coaching, I went to do my night security job, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I done that for many years, so it took the pressure away from looking at the coaching as a business.
But with your coaching business, this has now grown into the Nigel James Academy. It's a very, very successful coaching organisation. Within that business, have you seen some, I mean, yeah, obviously not naming names, but some, what would you describe as bad parenting? Or bad practice with regards to developing footballers?
Yeah, you know, one of the difference with what I do with my parents,
Yeah.
I try to give them all my experience.
Okay.
So I'm there to take on board. So when you sign up to Nigel James, you sign up for the coaching and my experience. And with what I've gone through, I have got an older son that walked out of it, and I know why he walked out of it, and I know how he was, where some clubs wanted to give him a chance and some clubs didn't want to give him a chance. And then I also have Rhys that's gone through it and done it, and then you also have Lauren. So when it comes to football, I don't think there's going to be another coach that's gone through to have their own children, yeah, to have one don't make it, one makes it a boy and a girl. I don't think there's going to be another person that's going to go through that.
No.
So you could have great coaches, but we're not just talking about the coaching. We're talking about living the experience of your child. You know, that is real. So when I try to give that to parents, and I have a lot that listen, and I still have a lot that I talk to them, and I look and sit and think, you're still trying to weigh up whether you like that or you don't like it. And it's not there for discussion or debate. This is final. What I'm telling you, that is it. Yeah? Either you take it on the chin or good luck. Yeah.
If you, and yeah, we haven't sort of come to sort of the final few questions, but yeah, this has just been incredible hearing you speak. It's been absolutely awesome hearing the journeys. I think that we sort of are looking to see, is there a formula to becoming a footballer? And despite you having two children that have gone all the way to the top, you're still saying no. You're still saying like so much, but there was like luck at certain times, and your advice. You're saying that if you had a kid in the future, you wouldn't even put them into football. You've said.
Do you know what? It's not so much put them into football. You'd let them do what they want to do.
Okay.
Yeah. And if it's football they like, then it's football you do.
Yeah.
You know, if it's, you know, dance they want to do, it's dance
Yeah.
they go and do. But, you know, if it was football and I had another child and they said they want to be football sort of thing, how I would look at it next, you know, you would carry on with the coaching.
Yeah.
Yep. They do their sessions. They become elite ball mastery on the ball.
Yeah.
And, you know, then you just have to just see how things go. You know? So, what to say, what not to say to coaches,
Yeah.
when to stay out of it, you know? Because, you know, coaches and everything, they want to make sure they could work with the right families. Yeah.
If you had another child that was coming through the program now, would you get them a social media account really early on?
No. I'd stay well away from social media. And you just, when you get to a stage, there's parts that you have to do.
Yeah.
Like, you know, my kids, if they didn't have to do it, they wouldn't.
Really?
But there's parts of it that you have to do, and it helps with sponsorship and all the other bits with it. People want to see a little bit. But at the early stages, no chance. You know, what you got to do is just focus on your football. Focus on your football, and when the time's right, you know, that will come into it. But, you know, why sort of like put yourself under pressure and fall into that sort of hype on where you are and taking pictures and posting this and no. Yeah.
Last question from me. What's been your proudest moment so far in Reece and Lauren's journey?
Proudest moment, there's been many, but I think the proudest moment is just seeing them do what their dream was. Yeah. Their dream, what they set off, was to be a footballer. And so, you know, I feel like with the family and with them, we've helped them achieve what their dreams. And now they're at a stage where they play, they have a good game, they don't have a good game, and that's not for me to sit and say, like, that was not good, you should have done that. They know the only person they've got to please, the most important person they've got to please, Rhys, his first team manager, Lauren, her first team manager. Everyone else don't exist. You please those two people, and they'll play you, and everyone else gets on with it. But everyone's got an opinion, but you just got to do what your manager wants.
Yeah.
And I think if everybody takes that on board, then I think a lot of players will probably succeed in the game and not listen to other people around them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's been class and it's been invaluable information. I really hope a lot of parents take the time to listen to this.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Because,
thank you, Nigel.
It's so helpful. So thank you so much for your time.
No,
Thank you, Nigel.
Great stuff.
Cool.